Michael Pearson Matthew McConaughey drinks beer in the London pub he owns. Suddenly, a figure with a pistol appears behind him. A shot sounds and bloody splashes effectively dissolve into the glass. The further action of the film tells about the events that preceded this. Daily print tabloid editor Big Dave Eddie Marsan hires private detective Fletcher Hugh Grant to investigate the connection between Lord Pressfield, a member of the royal family and once fourth in line to the throne, with American Mickey Pearson, London's biggest drug dealer. Once at a social reception, Mickey pointedly ignored Big Dave's outstretched hand, which practically destroyed him in the eyes of representatives of the establishment. The angry publisher is ready to pay £150,000 for the incriminating evidence. At the same time, realizing that by blackmailing Pearson he could get a much larger sum, Fletcher comes to Mickey's right-hand man, Raymond Hunnam, and offers to buy the dossier he collected on Big Dave's order for $20 million. He brings with him a presentation of the collected materials, mockingly framed as some kind of conventional film script. The subsequent story is partly told from the point of view of Fletcher, who reads out fragments of his script. Michael Pearson was born in the USA into a poor family. In an effort to get out into the world, he managed to get a scholarship and enter Oxford University, where he eventually began distributing marijuana among major students. Mickey basically ignored hard drugs, limiting himself to weed, but its market was almost completely crushed. Over time, expanding his criminal business, Pearson encountered a characteristic feature of British land legislation: the owner does not have the right to prohibit outsiders from entering his land. Accordingly, it is almost impossible to hide the necessary hemp plantations from prying eyes. The inventive American managed to develop an elegant scheme for sheltering his production. He gradually opened farms for growing weed in underground greenhouses, using the lands of the family estates of impoverished English aristocrats, whom he began to generously sponsor. He developed friendly relations with many of them. Mickey often helped his lords, taking advantage of his status and money. As Pearson gets older, he begins to think about retiring, and at the same time, on the eve of the legalization of marijuana being discussed by legislators, ceding his drug empire to a person with an impeccable reputation, since Mickey's own reputation is unsuitable for legal business. He plans to sell the production to Jewish-American billionaire Matthew Berger Jeremy Strong for $400 million, focus on his family, and have children with his wife Rosalind Michelle Dockery. Suddenly, a Chinese crime boss nicknamed Dry Eye Henry Golding shows interest in Michael's business. Knowing that Rosalind is the owner of a car repair shop, he brings her a container of auto parts as a gift in exchange for an audience with her husband. At the request of his wife, Michael agrees to the meeting, but categorically suppresses all attempts by Dry Eye to begin negotiations on the topic of selling his business to the Chinese. Almost immediately after the negotiations, a company of young rappers and MMA fighters, calling themselves Carapoos, raided Pearson's laboratory. Well-trained guys film their fight with the guards and upload the video to the internet. The boys' mentor, also known as Coach Colin Farrell, who has dedicated his life to rehabilitating troubled youth from the streets, enraged by the stupidity and arrogance of the students, comes to Raymond and takes full responsibility for their action. He offers Raymond help his and his students as a way to work off a debt for a robbed farm. The raid cost Pearson dearly. The farm had to be closed, and the deal with a potential buyer almost fell through. Michael and Raymond are sure that Dry Eye, offended by the refusal, is behind the robbery, since the Chinese man Na gave the tip to the Carapoos farm. They threaten Dry Eye's boss, Chinese drug lord Lord George, and burn down his heroin laboratory. Lord George, who as it turned out knew nothing about the plans of his henchmen, flies into a rage and demands that Dry Eye stop his amateur activities. However, Dry Eye responds by killing his boss and becoming the leader of the Chinese group. In parallel, the story of Lord Pressfield unfolds, the daughter of that same lord, one of those covering Mickey's business, whose connections Fletcher was investigating. The girl, being a singer, fell in love with a pop idol and, succumbing to his influence, became addicted to heroin and left home. The heartbroken parents ask Mickey to bring their daughter home, and he agrees, entrusting the case to Raymond. Raymond, after some persuasion, takes the girl from a drug den, but during the operation a fight breaks out, and one of Laura's friends, a drug addict named Aslan, falls out of the window. This is the story Big Dave plans to spin. Despite the fact that Laura returned to her parents, she soon dies from a drug overdose. However, the highlight of Fletcher's script is not the Pressfield story, but much more interesting information. During the surveillance, he finds out that Dry Eye knew Berger and, as it turned out, conspired with him. In an attempt to bring down the selling price, Berger told Dry Eye about the location of one of Mickey's farms, which he had been taken on a tour to. The raid organized by Dry Eye was supposed to damage Pearson's business and reduce the value of the deal. With Fletcher's information confirming Pearson's suspicions about the connection between Dry Eye and Berger, Mickey and Raymond begin plotting a retaliatory strike. The opening scene of the film is repeated the attempt on Michael's life in the cafe. It turns out that he survived the attack or was noticed in time and eliminated by Raymond. Since Rosalind suddenly hung up and did not answer her calls, Michael realized that Dry Eye's men had also visited her. Rosalind tries to fight back the bandits, but her pistol runs out of bullets. Having time at the last moment, Michael saves his wife and kills Dry Eye. Raymond orders Coach's students to kidnap Big Dave. The scandalous editor is pumped full of drugs and Viagra and sent into a pen with pigs, after which the next morning they threaten to publish a vile bestiality video if he does not stop digging under Mickey Pearson. Pearson and Berger, having set a rendezvous at the fish market, resume negotiations. Matthew, with feigned sympathy, calculates out loud how much Mickey's business has lost in value as a result of recent events, and declares that now he would be ready to buy it only for $130 million and not for $400. However, in response, Pearson reveals Berger's true plans and presents it to the failed buyer 3 counterclaims. First, the business will remain with Mickey. Secondly, Berger must compensate him for the same £270 million by which he fell in price as a result of the provocations of Berger and Dry Eye. Third, Berger must cut off a pound of flesh from himself as compensation for attacking Michael's wife. Fletcher visits Raymond again in hopes of getting his payment. However, it turns out that Raymond had been spying on him all this time, and both caches of his incriminating evidence, the original and a copy, which Fletcher expected to use as insurance, were found with the help of Coach's guys. Seriously frightened, Fletcher reveals another secret. It is not Berger and Dry Eye who are behind the failed assassination attempt on Pearson, but the Russian oligarch Aslan, whose son Aslan Jr. fell from the balcony of boyfriend Lord Pressfield's apartment due to the fault of Pearson's people. Fletcher personally conveyed to him all the information about those responsible for the death of his son, expecting to receive at the same time $20 million from Mickey, $150,000 from Big Dave, and a fee from the Russians. At this time, another attack is made on Raymond, but the bandits are destroyed by the trainer. Ray tries to warn Mickey, but is too late. The boss has already gotten into the car, in which there was a trap Russian bandits. Suddenly, the path of the car is blocked by the Coach's fighters, who want to solve the Coach's problem by completely paying off their stupid debt to Pearson by killing him. Noticing something was wrong, Michael falls under the seat and takes cover from the bullets. The Carapaus shoot at Pearson's car point blank, eliminating Aslan Sr's men. Later, Fletcher, who managed to escape in the chaos, approaches Miramax Films with the idea of making a film. After the conversation, he gets into a taxi, but Raymond is driving. Upon learning of Fletcher's capture, Pearson and Rosalind celebrate the victory of their drug empire.